episode 80 of Off Script with Trish Glose, intimate interviews with interesting people. In front of my microphone today, I'm pleased to have Andrea Berryman Childreth. Hello.
Hello.
You almost have as long of a name as Carolina Wyszynska-Lavanino.
I feel like mine's easier to say, though.
Yours is
maybe.
a lot easier,
Yeah.
but when she was on, I really had to practice a few times before I said that. And then she got really proud of me because I was nailing it.
Because you were on it.
You are with Spotlight Marketing. That's your own biz.
Yep.
Your own business. You're also the founder of Bipolar Lemonade.
Yes, which actually the rebranded name of it is the Lemonade Project.
The Lemonade Project.
Yep.
That's right. You're also an author of this sweet little book right here, On the Edge, Help and Hope for Parenting Children with Mental Illness. We're going to talk a lot about this because this and the Lemonade Project are very closely hand in hand.
Yes.
But we're going to talk a lot about this actually, but I like to start off all my fun and interesting conversations with my interesting people. Where are you from originally, Andrea?
Actually, well, I was raised here.
What?
But I was born in Germany because my dad was in the military.
Okay, something I did not know about you.
Yeah, so we moved here when I was almost 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you never left. I mean, you did.
Well, I did for 12 years, and then
you
I came back. Yeah.
They always come back, don't they?
Yeah, I know, right?
Whoever said, well, what's that phrase? You can never go home again?
I don't know. I feel like the phrase is that everybody always ends up, it's like circular, you know?
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So dad was in the military. What branch?
Well, he was in the Army, but he was a doctor, so whatever that means. You know what I mean?
He was an Army doctor.
Yes, he was an Army doctor.
He was a medic.
Yeah.
Medic?
Yeah, right?
Okay.
Like MASH? I don't know.
Yeah. You should know this.
I don't. I know. Don't ask me questions about
Too
my
bad.
family.
I'm gonna.
My dad.
I'm gonna. So So
It's a
he was in the
stress.
Army for, do you know
Frankfurt.
how long? Frankfurt?
Yep, Frankfurt. Just a few years.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then we actually moved to Portland, and then we moved down to Medford.
So do you know medic, like on a battlefield type thing, or just like if in the infirmary
I think
thing?
it was more like sort of in the hospital.
Okay.
You know, community. But I mean, if they got hurt, there wasn't anything significant happening at the time. There,
Right.
so.
That would make sense. And so you guys decided to move to Portland. Why? Why Portland?
I think Dad was finishing up his schooling, like residency at OHSU, and then got his first job down here, Dr. Hibbs.
Wow. And you guys set up camp?
We have set up camp and have been here ever since.
Wow. And you grew up with siblings?
I have 2 older sisters.
Okay.
One's in Napa Valley and one's in Newburgh.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. And so what did Dad do then growing up? Was he a doctor?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have his own practice?
He did for a while, and then he's specializes in internal medicine, or did. He's retired now. And so when kind of the whole HMO thing and healthcare started to shift and change, Providence ended up purchasing his practice, and the doctors were in it, and so he ended up working for Providence as a doc. Yeah.
So do a lot of people in this area knew him?
Yeah, but I think they probably know Mom more.
Well, sure. Let's talk about Mom.
Yeah. So like they're, if they had him as a doctor, they were patients, and for sure. But I think Mom, just because she's
so Dad was Dr. Hibbs.
No. Dad was Dr. Berryman.
Who's Hibbs?
Hibbs. Dr. Hibbs was
I'm so confused.
Was the practice that he went to. Like it was his
It makes
first,
a lot of sense. I was about to ask you, what kind of scandal is happening in your family where Mom has a different name than Dad?
And then I have this like long, weird name.
I need details. Okay. So Dad ended up buying Dr. Hibbs' practice. Dr. Berryman.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So Hibbs like hired a mom, right, as a doctor in his practice, and then he.
I should have told you I was going to ask you all these questions.
I know. I know you're stressing me out. I would have researched a little
it's
bit
okay.
more.
We're going to take a
Keep
deep
going.
breath. We're going to take a deep breath.
My dad's going to be like, that wasn't true. You
That's
had
okay.
that info wrong.
I've told a few family stories on the podcast. Actually, I'm going to admit it right now. My mom's like, I don't think you have that quite right.
Yes.
And I'm like, Mama, that's okay. That was episode 26. It's long gone.
That's
it's fine.
right.
It's fine. It doesn't matter.
She's like, I still listen to it, though.
Yeah. So Mom is Lindsay Berryman. And if you know anything about Medford, you know that she was a mayor at one point.
She was. Yes.
I remember her. She was the mayor when I moved here.
I know.
I interviewed her for
when you were a
stories.
young journalist, a
Hey,
young
easy.
buck.
I'm still young,
You
Missy.
are, but
No, so what did she do growing up?
well, she, as far as when I was growing up, or when she was.
No, when
so
you
when
were.
I was growing up, she actually graduated from college as a nurse.
Okay.
Which is interesting. And then when she came here, she became like a counselor, sort of like for addiction, that type of thing. She worked in that field, and then she was like ran the Girl Scouts for a while. I know it's kind of
Wow.
rando. And then she went back to school because she's like, you know what, this like nursing counseling thing really isn't my gig. I really want to do business, and so she went back to what was it called at the time, SOC, right? Southern
Oh,
Oregon
yes,
College,
Mm-hmm.
and got her business degree. And then she started the Cookie Connection in 1984. So she started that business with Caprice Moran.
What? The Cookie Connection? The
Her
same Cookie Connection that's like in the mall?
Yep. So the first one, that was my first job. I was 14. The first one was, I have lots of stories about that, but they may not be appropriate for air. But anyhow,
Dang it.
the first one was right where Tinseltown is right now.
Okay.
And then the second one was downtown where my daughter's closet is in Medford.
Yep.
And then the third one was the mall. And they did have one over by Harry and David. She ended up selling. And so it's like she kind of ended up selling and closing them as they did,
Wow.
needed to be. And then,
Why cookies?
I think
Why
Mrs.
not?
Fields was sort of on the
Oh,
rise,
man,
and they
yeah.
just like, and it like was super successful. Well, now Crumble's coming back, right?
Yeah.
That cookie place.
Yeah, Mrs.
and-
Fields cookie. That was huge.
Yeah. So it was right like during that time when it was
Yeah.
just this huge phenomenon.
America just
So-
needed cookies then.
I know.
Apparently.
Yeah.
One thing about the Cookie Connection now, I don't know if you've ever been there recently.
I haven't been in years, but my girls go every now and then.
The
Yeah.
best gelato I have ever had.
Really?
Ever. Now, I've never been to Italy and I've never had gelato there, but they import this gelato from San Francisco, and it's like the real deal Italian.
Oh, I'm going to have to go because I've had Italian gelato.
Well,
Mom took me once.
Okay.
Yeah.
So go try it and tell me what you think. And I'm almost kicking myself now telling everybody because then you're going to eat all the gelato and there's not going to be any for me when
No,
I go.
know.
But they have a flavor called creme brulee gelato. And I'm telling you, I'm not even a big sweets person. It's the best gelato I have ever had.
Oh.
Ever. And I've eaten my fair share of ice cream and gelato, so I know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. That's good to know.
Cookie Connection.
There you go. Cookie Connection.
The little business
Connection.
that your mama started.
Yep. it's
Now has the
business
best
my mom
gelato
started. I
in
know.
the
They
Rogue
didn't
Valley.
have gelato then. They had ice cream.
Okay.
Yeah. We did these like little ice cream sandwiches, but they weren't little because the cookies were like
Huge.
5 inches in diameter.
They're ginormous.
They are ginormous.
So you worked there as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. First job.
It was my first job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I worked there pretty much till I graduated. But I ended up working for my dad's office for a little bit too.
Okay.
I think when I was a senior. And I think I quit that job, the Cookie Connection, for like 2 months when I had a boyfriend and I was mad at my mom. So I went and worked at McDonald's with him. I have this whole story.
So
Maybe I'm too
rebellious.
comfortable right now.
You get into a comfortable spot in these podcasts, so who knows what's going to come
Okay,
out
now
later.
I gotta pull it back.
Rein it in, rein it in.
Yeah.
Good old-fashioned child labor is what that is, you know?
Oh, totally. Well, but you had to be 14 at the time. That was, like minimum age. But yeah, it was crazy.
Why did she decide to run for mayor?
She's very passionate about community. I mean, that's kind of her jam, and I think she just saw that Medford needed to, I don't know, kind of get some coolness, and maybe that didn't happen all the way, and she's still working on that, but she just wanted to tighten up the downtown and the economy and the community, and so she felt like it was really important. And I think she was on the Water Commission before. She was actually on the city council years and years and years ago, like late 80s or something like that.
Okay.
And then she was on the Water Commission, and I just, you see all the kind of deficits in the system, and it probably drove her crazy. And
Well, I
she
think-
wanted to be involved.
Especially depending on your personality. Yeah, if you do see problems, you will go down a rabbit hole trying to fix them. So I completely understand that. Do you guys ever have conversations now about, looking at Medford now versus when she was mayor, for instance, or when she was city council?
My work with Travel Medford has brought me kind of full circle with what's going on with Medford and downtown revitalization and all the good things. And what's interesting is a lot of what actually is kind of cropping up right now was in her vision 20 years ago.
Crazy.
So I had was speaking with Sunny Spicer with Kid Time. And we're talking about her new, museum that they're doing, the Southern Oregon Children's Museum. And she was saying to me, you know what, your mom, like in her 2020 vision, she said to me that we were going to have Kid Time in the Carnegie building. She goes, and I remember thinking to myself, there's no way. She goes, and then here we are, almost 20 years later. And so that's how visionary my mom is. I mean, she really is. Like, it just was amazing.
Does she have any other predictions for us?
Yeah.
Does she, in all honesty, does she see the downtown area? Because I feel like we're getting there.
Yeah.
But we're not quite there yet.
No, she totally sees it coming together.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I do
too. And I do too. Like, and kind of the circles that I have to work with business. I think it's coming together.
Okay, good.
The energy and chemistry is there. We just need to keep plugging away.
What high school did you go to?
North Medford.
North Medford High School.
North Medford High School.
Who was your crew in high school?
My crew was.
Who'd you run with?
Cheerleaders.
I knew it.
Right? Okay.
I knew it. That's
So,
okay. I was a cheerleader.
I know. Okay. Yeah. See.
Nothing wrong with cheerleaders.
Okay.
They're fantastic.
So there's a few gals in the valley who still live here that I hung out with. Kimberly Hewitt Hicks.
My good buddy, Kimberly Hicks.
So it's like Kim and I were.
She's actually told me a few stories about the two of you.
She has it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so she was my crew. I mean, she, and
You guys were
Jody Allen
besties.
and yeah. No, we were really tight.
That's so funny to
Isn't
me.
that funny?
That's so funny. Well, and so you were on the cheerleading squad, obviously. What kind of student were you?
I was pretty good. I mean, I think, I graduated with a 3.6. I wasn't
That's good.
like,
That's real good.
super duper smart, but I was
Yeah.
held my own.
What did you want to do after high school?
Go to college and become a broadcaster, like the next Today Show anchor.
We were just talking about this.
Yeah.
What college did you go to?
Indiana University, and
Whoa.
I chose Indiana because it was in the top 3 in the nation for journalism schools. It's still in the top 20, but not the top 3.
Wow, so you wanted
the
to be
time.
a broadcast journalism person.
And then I had an internship and was like terrified. I was like, this is not now. I can't watch myself on camera. I do not want to hear myself. Yeah.
I will say this, watching myself on TV is not a big deal. When I hear myself, like in a recording, I want to vomit.
Right. Still?
I just sound so whiny. And
you don't, though.
Well,
you feel like you do. But
and even I'll listen to something where we weren't even on air, and I'm asking a question to someone, and I'm like, hey, who did that? And I'm just like, ew, stop. It's just too much. Where was your internship?
KDRV. With
no comment.
Oh my gosh, what was the guy's name? Yeah, Mike. Anyways, so funny. So he was at a school at Moorhead College playing baseball, which was like literally an hour from me, and he grew up here. Mike Doherty. I think that's what his name was.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah. So,
well, they are
KDRV.
my competition. So
no, I know. So that was my first internship was KDRV.
No wonder you got scared and went running. I mean,
well, but then I went to New York the next summer and had an internship with American Health Magazine.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't want to do this either. Like, I was totally drawn towards the advertising side. That's where I wanted to be, but I was, whatever. I wrote some stories and got them published, and it was okay. It's just, again, it wasn't quite the right fit.
So how did you know, because you're majoring in journalism? Okay. Which the school I went to, advertising and marketing fell into the journalism realm.
Yeah.
So did you have to switch majors?
No, I graduated with journalism,
Okay.
and basically in my, spring terms, my mom was like, I don't know what I'm going to do for a job. Like, I don't want to do this. And at the time, I was teaching aerobics and had been for 2 years. And it's so rando. It's very rando. And my boss was like, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And she was like, and I helped them with all their marketing and newsletters and all that type of stuff. And she said, we have an assistantship open for our master's program in sports and recreation marketing.
Okay.
Do you want to do it? And I said yes. So it was a 2-year master's program, and I got paid. And my school got paid for. I taught aerobics and
Fantastic.
Yeah. And it was like my jam. Here I am. Because all in journalism, I was like, struggling to get B's, A minuses. And then I got into, sports marketing administration, and it was just like straight A's.
Here I am.
Yep.
I have arrived. Okay. So what did you want to do with that then? Did you want to start a marketing business or?
I mean, I thought eventually probably, yeah. But, my first job was in a recreational sports facility down in Texas for the University of Texas, Arlington.
Okay.
So, which is just, I don't know if you know, south of like Fort Worth is where I lived. And so that was a lot of fun, but I knew like I didn't want to get pigeonholed into one industry. So, after Jeff and I met, my husband, and he moved down to Texas with me for a little bit, terrified of Texas because of the tornadoes and big golf size hail, or softball size, softball size hail. Anyways, we moved back up to Portland because he went to dental school at OHSU. And I got into healthcare because my dad was working with Providence. He got me a referral. And so then it was just like and then the next job after that was different than healthcare and sports. I was like in construction. So it's like I just was able to build off of it.
For sure.
And then when I moved here, I started my own little company.
Awesome.
For a while.
Where did you meet Jeff?
We met at my sister's wedding. He was a fraternity brother of my sister's now ex-husband.
Okay. It's okay.
But I don't, that's where we got reconnected, reunited.
Because you knew him before?
So good. Uh-huh.
She's singing
I've
now.
I've known him since we were 5.
Oh my gosh.
Me and Samantha 6 chased him under the, playground thingy, the fort.
Yeah.
And kissed him with his little glasses on.
Poor Jeff. Tormented from 5 by 2 obnoxious little girls.
Pretty much.
So did you go to high school together? Did you guys kind of grow up together?
Well, he graduated a year younger than me, so we went to Hedrick together for a year, and then we went to mid-high together for a year, and then it split to South-North, and I went to North, and he went to South.
Okay.
So we
You've known him for a long time.
Yes. Yeah, we knew each other, but we never, were really communicating. Besides me kissing him under the...
Well, I was going to say, does he tell that story a lot? Like, she's been chasing me for years.
No, I do.
Okay.
He's not as proud of it, apparently.
I love it. So he is a dentist?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Still practicing?
Mm-hmm.
In Medford?
Yep.
Awesome.
In Medford.
And that would be Dr. Childreth?
Dr. Childreth.
Good for him.
Yeah. So...
and you guys got married when?
In 1998. So
okay.
It's been 21 years.
That's when I graduated high school.
I know.
Just want to say.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's such a jerk move. I don't know why people do that. To make you feel better, I'll say something about, I graduated in high school in 98, and I have kids upstairs who I work with go, oh, I wasn't born then.
Yeah. Oh, no. I know.
And I'm like, huh? How is that possible?
Right.
How are you that young?
I know.
Like, are you old enough to even work here?
Exactly. I know.
Anyways, that's a whole nother thing. So you guys moved to Medford eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you're just working along. You're doing your thing. When do you open Spotlight Marketing?
Well, I actually had ABC marketing first. So when I moved here, I started my own business, and I worked with the Rogue Gallery, like S&B James, actually, back in the day.
Wow.
And People's Bank of Commerce.
Okay.
And then I got hired onto People's Bank as their marketing director, and I was there for 6 years.
Wow.
And then I ended up leaving there in 2010, and I started Spotlight Marketing and retained People's as a client as well.
Yeah.
But so that 2010.
Okay.
So it's been almost 10 years this February.
That you've lived?
No, that I've had Spotlight.
Spotlight. Mm-hmm. Okay. You have 2 girls. They are?
Chloe and Sophia. Chloe's 18 and Sophia's 17.
Okay. And so they were born pretty close together. Were they buddies?
Yeah, by force. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, they are, and they still are. It's just, Chloe has and had a lot of kind of social challenges, and so Sophia was sort of her, buddy.
Okay.
Built-in buddy.
I feel like this is probably a good spot where we can talk about your book a little bit. I just wanted to read something here. I'm gonna read just a couple of things. This is the prologue. It's called Our Story, and just once more. Andrea is the author of On the Edge, Help and Hope for Parenting Children with Mental Illness. How had it come to this? We were prisoners in our own home. Our daughter Chloe routinely exploded with foul language, tantrums, even threats with weapons, and her younger sister had become her minion and punching bag. Alienated from neighbors and peers, Chloe had no friends, and her days consisted of sleeping until about noon, eating and playing video games until the wee hours of the morning. She wasn't growing except in size as she gained nearly 40 pounds. Disabled by anxiety and depression, unable to communicate or socialize with her sixth grade classmates, or to break down school assignments into manageable tasks, she often refused to get out of bed and cried uncontrollably when I tried to get her to go to school. She attended only about a third of the time, and more often than not, I had to go with her for support. Our school district did little to provide resources and help, and my husband and I felt demoralized and defeated. We despaired about Chloe's future and what we imagined it would be. I've read that so many times, and I just, that just almost sounds like a parent's nightmare, because on the back there's a passage that says when a child's faced with some sort of physical crisis or tragedy, it seems like you can't get enough support. I mean, you're inundated with support.
Right.
When a child's facing mental illness, nobody wants to talk about it.
Nope.
Is that what you faced?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I still do, honestly, even though she's been through treatment and, I'm on this mission with my book and the Lemonade Project
You are, yes.
and raising awareness and all that type of stuff. And I'm working now with Grace and Kindness, a Run with Grace. Her Susan Holt's daughter died by suicide 4 years ago. And no one wants to talk. It's so interesting to me, but no one wants to talk about it. They don't want to talk to Susan about the suicide of Grace, and me even about how Chloe's doing. It's always this sort of, is she doing okay? It's like this kind of, I don't want bad news.
When did this all start? When did you notice something wasn't right? Was it a culmination of things?
Yeah, I mean, she was always a very willful child, I'll say. And after we had Sophia, she got she was jealous kind of easily, which is common, but I mean it just didn't seem super kind of normal, but we just took it in stride. And I would say the for me the key indicator was when she was in preschool, and we take her, and she just all of a sudden we started getting reports from, the child's 3 years old, right? We started getting reports from the teacher that she didn't know how to get along with other kids, and she didn't know how to share, and she would say weird things during the middle of circle time and get up and walk away, didn't really have good boundaries. And you need to do play dates with her, and she stands in the corner all the time with the bunny. She never goes and plays with kids. And then at the same time that I was getting reports of that every day, Chloe was just on my leg, not wanting to leave me, and just hysterical going to school. And so we got to a point where, and this is what's difficult, I think, a lot about mental illness and when you don't know what's going on, is it's okay, are we enabling if we pull her out, right? Or are we helping, because why are we making this kid so miserable, when clearly she doesn't like this, or something's wrong, or something's uncomfortable.
Right.
So I always had a feeling that there was something, going on with Chloe, just because I have my own mental health issues and that I've really struggled with. And so I internalize people's stuff really easily. So I just had a feeling, and then it kind of, thing after thing, and it sort of just started to spiral out of control, where she was just would go, crazy outside and screaming and having these tantrums that weren't normal tantrums. I mean, they were 2-hour long tantrums, and I couldn't settle her down. My husband couldn't. He's a big guy, 5-year-old. She'd be like flailing around. And so it was that type of thing. And then she would start, like throwing rocks at the neighbor kids, even though we told her not to. She'd get mad. And so by the time she was 6, first grade, I went into a parent-teacher conference, and Jeff wasn't there at the time, but the teacher, Jan Wood, said to me, she's in first grade, and the girls will be forgiving right now, but there's going to be a time when she's going through school where the kids won't be as forgiving with her, and she's, really struggling and having some challenges. And she said when she's in the classroom, her eyes are just glazed over. She said, I can tell she's not connecting, and the only time she connects with me or with the lesson assignment is when I go up to her one-on-one and I sit at the table with her. So she said, I'd recommend you get her evaluated. And so we did. So we took her to a psychologist and a psychiatrist.
Okay. Who is that teacher?
Jan Wood. She's at.
Thank you, Jan
Yeah.
Wood.
Mm-hmm. She's at Lone Pine Elementary.
She's still there?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I think I need to interview her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those
She's
are
awesome.
and those are the good teachers on that front line advocating for those kids and
Well,
telling
and it's
you.
not always easy to tell parents.
I
stuff
think you
like
need to get
that,
your child
right?
evaluated.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it was kind of validating because I'm not like crazy that
I'm not the only one seeing this.
Yes. Yeah. Like I'm not blowing this out of proportion.
So you get her evaluated. What did that doctor tell you?
So the first psychologist told us that she had ADHD, or told us, she had ADHD, and he wanted to do a brain, I don't know what they're called, mapping type thing, and you put the little, hood thing on the head, and it's got readers in there. Anyways, Chloe flipped out because she did not want that going on her head.
No.
What she thought later, now that what we understand, is that they were going to suck her brain out.
Aw,
I
thing.
know. And I had of course we had no idea. We're like, what is wrong with her?
Yeah.
Well, that's part of it. And then the second, we went to a psychiatrist shortly after we saw the first guy, and he said ADHD, and then he said bipolar, which is depression, anxiety, go with that. So that's the diagnosis she had from the time she was 6 until she went to treatment in Utah when she was 15.
Right.
So 9 years.
So you have at this point, you and your husband are looking at each other going, we have a bipolar 6-year-old.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know if I can wrap my head around what that means.
Right. Well, you don't. And you're already so in crisis anyways.
Yeah.
At that point, and I think what happens, I know, is because I talk to a lot of parents who are in the same situation, it's like you will just hold on to anything to get relief, right, or help for the child and for yourself. So, I mean, we put her on medication. She's been on so many medications, I can't even.
Different, I'm assuming, different medication, trying to do different things.
Yep.
Was there any sense of relief when you heard this, though?
For me, there was.
Yeah.
I think, Jeff, it took a little bit longer, but again, it's like I knew something was going on, and it's frustrating because people sort of dismiss you. Oh, now she just has a lot of energy. Now she'll grow out of it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't think so.
Right. Was there denial at all in the family?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
No,
for sure.
She's not bipolar.
Right.
This can't be happening.
And are you sure? I mean, all the way around, from the family to, friends to, and just,
For sure.
Yeah, this isn't happening. That's, she'll grow out of it. This, I think you guys are overreacting, that whole thing.
Did medication help?
It helped with her ADHD and her anxiety and depression. But what we saw, those mood swings and kind of the really violent acting out still was happening. And then she'd get really depressed. And that's what, kind of the bipolar looked like. But it wasn't until, later, till she went to treatment, that we found out she doesn't have bipolar. Actually, she's got she does have ADHD, but she's got a neurological condition called nonverbal learning disorder. So what happens with her is that it's kind of similar to being on the spectrum, and kids who have, let's say, Asperger's.
Yep.
She's likes to have a lot of structure and rigidity. she doesn't have the ability to see in front of her. Like, you know what I mean? From the kind of see the writing on the wall, as I would call it.
Yeah.
And Jeff and I, that's who we are, like, big time. Like, we can see, and you know what I'm saying? We're more visionary, and we see the writing on the wall. She can't even connect it. I mean, even to this day, when you talk to her about stuff, it's like, oh my gosh. But we didn't know that. So we're like, what is wrong with her? So we felt like she wasn't listening to us, because some of the characteristics are, you know, they don't process all the information, one.
Right.
And they don't remember it, right? Because their minds are going so quickly all the time. So you're constantly having to tell her over and over and over and over and over and over again the same thing. And so it can feel like she's not listening to me.
Sure.
She's disrespectful. She's, you know what I mean? And then at the same time, she doesn't have a good read on people's social cues and cannot read between the lines. So there's a lot of times we'll say something and she'll be like, I don't know what you mean.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, like, what are you saying? And so we have to, like, break it down for her. So imagine.
I'm like that most of the time.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, so am I. Imagine as a child
Right.
who's just learning how to communicate and, like, constantly doing things wrong. And the other thing that's interesting, it is. The other thing that's interesting is kids who have this disorder aren't able to generalize. So let's say you're with her, you're 6 years old, and you're, you know, walking down the street, and you guys go to cross the street, and you say you always want to stop and look, see if cars are coming, right? And you cross the street with them, hold their hand. With Chloe, it was just on that street. She doesn't realize she has to do it a block
On
down
every
the street.
Just on that street.
Yeah.
Oh, bless her heart.
Crazy,
That's
huh?
so tough.
Isn't that crazy? It is. And so it's just been a continual challenge for her, because people have a really hard time wrapping their head around that too, because she's adorable. She's a darling girl, and she's very, like, kind of bubbly and, you know, happy, and but she can't connect the dots all the time, and people get really frustrated because it's like they just think she's being, you know, manipulative or whatever it may be. Yeah.
Did things ever get from 6? Did it get better? Did it get worse?
Worse.
It got worse.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, and it got to a point where, I mean, she was basically, by the time she got to 5th grade, she was maybe going to school 60, 70% of the time. And then when she got to 6th grade, she was going about 30, because she refused to go, because it was so painful for her and difficult, because everybody was, you know, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad. And no one kind of understood, and we didn't either, quite frankly. She just refused to go. So
other kids thought she was, like, the bad kid in class, or just like, you're different.
I probably different and bad. I mean, you know, I think she got to a point where, yes, they thought she was bad. Just because she would, like, didn't understand why they didn't want to hang out with her, or maybe, like, chase them around the, you know what I mean, the playground and stuff like that. So yeah, she, you know, she felt like all the teachers did and the principal did, and there was always stuff we were trying to do at school with her teachers to help accommodate her and make things, you know, kind of easier, and this, that, and the other, and yeah. And no one had a clue. There's just not a lot of resources around her disorder anyways.
I was going to ask you, this was, I mean, she's what, how old is she now?
18,
okay.
So that was in the 2000s.
Right, and so, I mean, I feel like we're just now learning about mental health, and there's really a spotlight now on mental health, and we're just now kind of barely even talking about it.
Right.
So this is what, 9 years ago?
Right.
No one was talking about it then.
No, and no, not at all. I mean, there just are so little resources still now. Information. You know, back then it just was almost, you know, non-existent. And the other challenge at the time, like when Chloe was in 6th grade, was that we were in a recession, our country was. And so there wasn't this extra funding for kids who, have special needs and who need extra attention. Like, it wasn't like they could have a counselor at the school all the time, or someone who, like in California, my friend's son is Asperger's, and he had like a buddy or assistant or something that would go around with him, an aide, that's what they called him, an aide, they'd go around with him to every single class and help him organize himself and stay up to date. And, you know, it was like his buddy or whatever, and that just wasn't the case.
Yeah, there was no, you either survived
Right.
or you just were left behind
Mm-hmm.
in essence.
Mm-hmm.
When did you realize, okay, we've got to do something different? Nothing was working with Chloe.
Well, when she was 10, we the whole time were like desperate, like this, it was crisis our kind of whole time
Wow.
while she was growing up. But we got a, third opinion, I think when she was about 10, maybe 9, up in Portland. And my psychiatrist, I broke down crying one day in one of our appointments, and he was like, let me see if I can find someone to refer you to up in Portland, like a bigger market. They've got more resources and tools. And so he referred me to a Dr. Bonnie Flick, who's still up there. And we went up and met with her. She met with Chloe on her own for a little bit, and we came back in, and she said, your daughter has nonverbal learning disorder. It's a type of Asperger's or autism. And she said this, she gave me like a book, but still we were like, what does that mean? You need to arm yourself, get some information. We took it back down. The doctor called our doctor who was here in the area, and told her, just advised her what she had seen, but our doctor just said, she does not have autism. She's bipolar.
Wow.
So we just let it go.
Really?
Yeah. But that's what she ended up having 6 years later.
And
That
Dr.
as
Bonnie Flick
diagnosed.
knew.
Yep.
She knew.
From Portland, right? Because, again, just Medford's so small, we just don't have the information and resources that they do up there.
And that's so frustrating that, I understand, especially when there's not a lot of resources and information on disorders like this, but to just have a doctor go, she doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And just completely dismiss it.
Right.
That's so
because she doesn't
frustrating.
look like a kind of normal Aspies or autistic kid, because nonverbal learning disorder it's very social, and usually those kids are very, they're or introverted and like exclude themselves and they isolate, whereas it's not as much like these kids are social, like they want to be with friends and people.
But again, and you probably know this better than anyone, what is normal?
Right.
None of us are normal.
Exactly.
We're all fighting these different battles and
right.
mental health issues of our own. And so
totally.
all of us are doing that. And so that's so frustrating. And I hope we get away from that where they don't look like someone who, you don't look like you're depressed.
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean anymore?
Right. Right.
That just kind of drives me a little crazy.
Yeah.
So this was at 10 years old.
10 years old, and then she was in 5th grade. I think, she was just starting to drop out of school.
Yeah.
By 6th grade, she was, again, 30% of the time she was in school. And then I found Armadillo Technical Institute, which is in Phoenix.
Phoenix, yeah.
And works with a lot of high-risk kids and kids who are on the spectrum. And so we sent her there, and it was like 1,000% better than the public school district that we were with. Just because they knew these kids needed more one-on-one attention.
Yeah.
They didn't have as, good attention spans. They
More
couldn't
structure.
Focus. Yeah, well, yeah, and they couldn't keep focus and organize their stuff. And some of them had learning disabilities, like Chloe has a severe math disability that she'll never get over. Again, it's that neurological piece that you're never going to, you know what I mean?
Chloe,
so,
I have a major math
I know, me
disability too.
I know.
I feel that.
Oh gosh. Anyways, so she went there and she did pretty well her 7th grade year, but then kind of started to fall into old patterns again, where she was skipping school and staying up too late and just, unhealthy, basically, patterns. And so we actually sent her to residential treatment when she was 13.
Okay.
So it was right after her 13th birthday. She went to a place up in Corvallis called Farm Home, and was there for about a month. And then she went to Kairos, which is up in Grants Pass. Yeah, and she was there for another month and a half or so. Came out, went back to school at Armadillo, and did really fairly well her 8th grade year. And the residential treatment was good. She just needed to be there longer. You think about someone who's got habits, right? Anybody who has a habit that you've had for 13 years, forever, and trying to change that is not going to happen with a kid in 2 months.
No.
So, so anyhow, her 8th grade year, she did substantially better, though. And then she ended up over the summer, when she doesn't have structure, she does not do well. So she ended up hooking up with some kind of unhealthy friends. And they're always friends who live, either are hooked up with drugs or on the edge or whatever, because they're the ones who accept her for who she is.
Yeah.
Right? Because they've kind of got their own stuff going on that they're dealing with and their own demons. And so they overlook her kind of oddities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she just got hooked up with a couple of them. And then she went into her freshman year, was doing really well. And then, again, winter break came. And one of her friends, set her up for a fight. It's weird. It's weird. It's a different world.
Set her up for a fight?
Well, she kicked her butt. Mm-hmm. Oh. She set her up. She came over, and she knew she was coming over, but I don't know. I can't even remember why. I mean, and a lot of times it's Chloe will say something that she's trying to be funny, in her mind. I'll do it all the time. That's kind of rude. How you just said that to me. I'm not being rude. I was just joking. No, it sounds rude. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. Kind of 2020, hindsight's 2020. I can see where people get pissed off at her, especially if it's a rough crowd.
Yeah.
They're going to kick her butt. That's what they do.
So her friend set her up.
Yep, she kicked her butt. And then Chloe just regressed, probably 6 years. Yeah.
Wow. So you actually decide to, you looked into long-term residential treatment. And that's where the place in Utah comes in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you doing your research on this?
Well, so again, you just get to this point where she had started, so the girl, beat her up, and then she got with some other friends, and one friend was doing cocaine in our house. We learned later on, and we knew, but she was escaping her home life because she got beat up by her mom. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So, and it's and I, as a parent, God, I feel horrible. I know she's getting beat up by her mom. Chloe tells me stories, and it's just oh my gosh, how can we not welcome her into our home, right? So there's that whole, because I have so much, compassion, empathy, it's to a fault, So she got with her, and then they weren't friends anymore, and then she got to be friends with someone else, and she ended up, one of the guys who was swimming over at the house was a drug dealer, and they were doing cocaine in our house. And my younger daughter saw, and then I had come home, and she came running out and was, hysterical. And so that was sort of our tipping point where we were she's either and she had started posting that she wanted to take her life, that she was always messing things up and disappointing everybody. And so we were she's either going to take her own life, she's going to get killed by someone, or she's, she's going to overdose on drugs or whatever. It's not
something
a healthy,
bad's
good.
Gonna happen.
Yeah, we felt she's definitely not going to graduate from high school. I mean, it wouldn't have happened. So we got a referral to a company up in Portland called Educational Connections, and they have facilities all over the country that they work with, 300 different therapeutic facilities. We met with them, and then they interviewed my parents, Jeff's parents, the school teachers, that type of stuff, to kind of get a feel for her. And then they came back with recommendations, and they said this place she needs to go. It's the best fit for her, and they have a bed open. You need to call right now and then fly out there and check it out.
Wow.
That's what I did. Yeah.
And that's where she went.
Mm-hmm.
How long was she there?
Almost 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While this is all happening, I can't imagine the stress from a child who is let's just say, not doing well in school.
Right.
They're just not doing well in school. All of the stress, how did you function during this time as an adult, as a parent to another daughter, as a wife, as a friend? How were you functioning?
I didn't a lot. I didn't. I mean, it was really hard on my own mental health, you know. And I think, I didn't. I was lucky that I didn't have to work full time, and that Jeff could take over that piece and compartmentalize and work and bring in income for our family. So I was able to rely on, someone I had partnered with for one of my clients, and she pretty much helped me with that entire client. And wow. There were years that I did hardly anything because I was at the school every single day, right, dealing with her. They were calling me, you know what I mean? She was calling, whatever it may be. So And Sophia, our other daughter, really, I mean, she's got and is working through PTSD. I mean, she had a lot of neglect. There's, I mean, all sorts of little issues that we went through, that when Chloe went to treatment, we had to kind of go through a healing process as well together, and she did, and she's gotten so much stronger, but it created a ton of anxiety for her. I mean, she was like almost paralyzed at times because her anxiety was so bad.
Are there trust issues with her and her sister?
Yeah, I mean, for all of us there are. There's kind of, with Chloe, it's like she's been home a year, and we almost still have these triggers sometimes with her where we are like, oh my gosh, like, what is she doing, and why is she doing that? And we go into our own like spin-off, and she's just, she's got this really whatever explanation, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I never would have thought of it like that, but okay. Right? Like, so it's that type of thing. So yeah, I mean, Sophia's actually really good though with her now, setting boundaries and just being like, no, like, I won't put up with it. I won't deal with this. I won't. Yeah. So, I mean, Jeff and I actually struggle more, I think, than Sophia does, which is interesting.
So Chloe goes to this program, and I mean, you and I have actually talked about this before. She did really well here.
Yeah. Yeah, in Utah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. She did awesome. So, like, just to back up, after we hired that educational consultant, because, part of this whole story is understanding just how awful these situations are, going through it and what these parents go through. But we had to hire a transport service because we knew she would never go to the school by herself. She would never, even if we took her, there's no way she wouldn't get on the plane, whatever. So we hired this company based out of Salt Lake City, and the woman flew out, and then one of her workers drove down from Portland. They met us at the house at like 3 a.m, and we gave them her backpack and woke her up and sent her on her way with them, and they took her to the center out in Utah. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Did you lose it?
Yeah, I mean, we went in there and turned on the light, and I'm just like shaking, and Chloe and I said, these people are going to take you to a treatment center, and she just was like, I don't want to go, and the lady just said, you guys need to leave. She prepared us beforehand. She said, you're going to have to go somewhere else. Don't stay near. Don't be around the corner. Like, go, like, get a coffee at Denny's or whatever. She's like, you need to be away. And that's what we went over to Jeff's parents, who lived a couple miles from us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then she communicated with us the entire time. I mean, they took away, Chloe, everything's stripped from them when they go to treatment. I mean, they don't get music, phones, nothing. Like, they make them deal with themselves. You know what I mean? That's part of it, is all of that, getting rid of all that distraction so you can start to learn about your own internal cues.
When you're a mama bear, and these strangers are taking your baby away.
Yeah. Oh, and it's just like you're questioning yourself. Oh my gosh, like, is this
the right thing?
Yes. Like, is this some cult I'm sending her to? Is this, seriously, I mean, you just flip out. But, Jeff kept going, we like spent a considerable amount of money to hire people to help us choose this place. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And that makes sense. Like, you would have to just go, because you can't, again, those mama bear instincts, you can't hear your child, cry out for you.
Yeah.
Because the first thing you're going to do is go, never mind.
I changed my mind.
I changed my mind.
Oh, it'd be horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was pretty
like,
heavy.
I mean, that's what they do to prisoners.
Yeah. I know. Well, but it was like, in our mind, it was like, we're either doing this or she's probably going to die at some point. And
you do what you have to do for your child. You just do it.
And we just knew she did not have good outcomes if we were to keep her in a situation she was in.
And so she did really well.
She did awesome. Yeah. It took her a while to like kind of get, accept that she was going to be there for a while, and forgive us for sending her off. And she felt like it was because we didn't love her and didn't want to, deal with her problems or whatever. And then we also had a shift in counselors, therapists at the program, which was really instrumental for us. So once we shifted to this other therapist, she just took off.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So, and she loves Maple Lake. I mean, she even now is like, I'd move back there because it's so structured and everybody understands her,
Yeah.
right? They all get what
Yeah.
how her brain works. And that she needs structure and that she thinks differently. And when you get out in the outside, no one cares.
They don't.
So, and that's kind of what she's been going through the last year, is sort of trying to figure that out, that like, I don't have my support here that I
Right.
used to.
Will she ever be able to live on her own?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think she can live on her own. She's going to probably need like financial support. I don't know. I mean, she wants to do something with, like horses or kind of I think if she were to find something somewhere in a barn job, that type of thing, because, she's got horses too. She'd be able to hold that and do well. And she just can't work with a lot of people because people either don't get her or they don't get her and it makes her angry or, the whole thing.
Or people just don't have patience for that.
No.
We just don't have the time for that.
No,
It's like,
exactly.
you either understand what I'm saying or I can't talk
Well,
to
and
you.
I'm the same way in my work environment.
Same here. Yeah, same here.
It's like, okay, sorry. Nah, I can't pay you anymore if you're not going to like figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
So that has to be incredibly frustrating for her.
Mm-hmm.
And, it would seem too, I don't know Chloe very well, but almost like this place that she graduated from,
Right.
she could probably do well helping other kids just like her.
Right. Well, and we always talk about that too. Like she could almost get hired at, I don't think that her program would ever hire a former student, but at another residential treatment program. She's actually she's volunteering at Hope Equestrian a few days a week.
Good for her.
Yeah, right up her alley. So it's that type of thing. If she could find something like that, and so we're hoping that might open some doors, or she might meet some people that she gets something else.
There's also, in the very beginning of this, I just love this, the acknowledgments of the book. You say, the deepest gratitude and admiration goes to my daughter, who has boldly and unselfishly shared her story. I mean, if it weren't for Chloe to say, yeah, Mom, let's do it, I mean, this wouldn't exist.
Right. And like, honestly, it wasn't like she said, yeah, Mom, let's do it. And I said to her, I'm thinking about writing a book. I want to and use your story. Chloe, because she doesn't have that ability, it's like also a gift to see the writing on the wall. She doesn't realize the stigma that is surrounding this, right? For her to be in this book. I mean, she does more now that she's been through treatment, but so for her, it's like, I want to share what we're doing and my story and whatever, but it's not the same as like Sophia. Like I hardly mention Sophia in the book at all. And that was by her request.
Right.
I mean, she just said, I because of her own
Yeah.
stuff,
Well, still just a huge, huge kudos to Chloe.
Yeah.
To share this.
Yeah. And she always shares, like, if I'm at like this interview, she'll share it on her Facebook page. And you know what I mean? Yeah, she's awesome.
Yay, Chloe.
Yeah.
Also, before we get into why you decided to write this, you say, did you know that 20% of teens are affected by some type of mental illness? Did you know that 25% of adults experience a mental illness during their lives? So when you started, obviously, as Chloe's going through her getting better and all of this, were you like, I've got to write a book to help other people, or was it therapeutic to write a book?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. So when Chloe went to treatment the first time, again, it's crazy. I mean, the stuff you deal with insurance companies and them like, are you sure you need to send her? Well, we're only going to be able to pay for a week. It's like, no, people, you don't change lives in a week. You know what I mean? Like, if this was someone who had cancer for 3 years, it wouldn't even be a thought.
Right.
You know what I mean? So because it's behavioral in the brain and you don't understand it, you're not going to give funding. So it was like we had to fight for everything. And it just made me so mad between the school district and us not being able to get support and resources and, from them as legally, right, defined by law, to the insurance company providing parity, mental health parity, which means that you have to give equal coverage to someone who has mental illness as you would to, like, let's say someone who, has cancer or needs a skilled facility.
Yeah.
I just was mad. And so by the time we sent Chloe to treatment, I mean, it just kind of all started to build up. And what happened is I was like, I'm just going to start a blog. I'm going to start sharing it with people so people know like what's happening, because no one talks about it.
Nope.
And it's this really like scary, conversation or topic. And so I wrote it, and I was transporting her from Corvallis to Grants Pass to Kairos, and we're in the hotel, and I wrote it on my little blog, and then I posted it to my Facebook page. And I remember like I was terrified.
I bet.
Just like, oh my God, like what are people going to think? Like it just was this, but I'm like,
Here I
this
am.
is so important. I've got to do it.
I'm out of the mental
Yep.
health closet.
Yep. Well,
Here I
yeah,
am.
like I'm totally exposed,
Uh-huh.
just come at me. And it was like overwhelmingly positive. And people were like messaging me on the side, right? They didn't do it in the open forum of Facebook, let's say. But they would message me or text me just being like, oh my gosh, my cousin's having issues with this, or my brother, or I am, or who do I contact about? I mean, it was like crazy. And then that's when the book came up, because I was like, you know what? Like, this is like an epidemic. This is not just our family and a few other families that are going on. These are stories with all these other families across the United States. They need to share their stories just like I'm sharing mine. And so that's why I started the book.
I mean, you could potentially help someone who has their own Chloe
Right.
at age 6, and you can figure this out way sooner.
Right.
Way sooner. You actually, you break down quite a few different disorders, right? I mean, there's post-traumatic stress in here. There's schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, and then kind of their breakdown as far as symptoms and signs and
treatments. Yeah,
So
possible treatments.
it's like a guidebook
Yeah,
almost.
yeah, it is. It's pretty comprehensive.
That's awesome. And who'd you work with on this?
I had a editor writer that helped. So I had a ghostwriter on everything.
Okay.
And in the beginning, I had a woman down in California who helped me kind of with the first pieces of it and putting it together. And then I had just some staff help me with the research pieces that you see in the in the front of the book. And then at the end, who helped me finalize it was Valerie Coleman is her name, and she actually has published several children's books. So she knew how to put all this, because I mean, it's like I never published a book. I don't know how to get an ISBN number, and I mean, clueless, right? Like how to get it published on Amazon and what all that looks like. And so she did the whole thing for me. It
That's
was
pretty
awesome.
awesome. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
How proud are you of this?
Proud. I'm proud. It's frustrating though, because I feel like it's such an important message, and it's so hard to get out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do we need to do to like break through the clutter that people, and it's not only for this, but just, about mental illness and suicide period, to, kind of get that attention that needs to happen, so people are paying attention to a book like this, or they're paying attention to other information, coming out. And we're not just kind of sweeping it by the wayside.
Yeah. And you think that's what we're doing?
Yeah, no, for sure. So Grace and Kindness Foundation is the 5K Run with Grace, and we banded together the Lemonade Project, and we just started a couple weeks ago something called Champions of Change, and it's working with teens in our area. And so we brought together 15 South Medford high schoolers, and a couple Hedrick kids came. And we wanted them to just talk. So we had 5 questions. What do you guys perceive as the major contributors to mental health and suicide? Who's at risk? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What, what needs to change? And Trish, was so, I think it was so empowering for them. I mean, I was blown away. I'm we are in trouble. They're just we need to be talking about this. No one knows what it is. No one talks about it. No one knows how to get help. There's no resources available. We don't know the difference between sadness and situational depression and clinical depression. I mean, it was, and the other thing too is at the end we had little questions what did you learn from tonight? What would you want to see in the future? And one of them was, if you've ever thought about suicide, finish a statement. And it said, I wish, ... Out of the 15 kids, we had 6. 6 responded. 6. It's almost 50%. That's frightening.
That's beyond
Yeah,
frightening.
like so we can't get enough attention to even, you know what I mean, like get that message out. And when I put out information like that, you know, on my Facebook, it's like if I do something, you know, like someone was saying the other day, puppies and kittens, right? You get like 1,000 likes. You do something about this, and like that post for when we had the teen chat and the information with it, I think I got 20 or 25 likes. But you go like on my website, I have nearly 200 views on that blog.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, why can't we talk about it?
Yeah, and you look at too within the media, I think there is an effort to talk about it more.
Yes.
But I do wonder if people don't want to listen to it. If it's just like
because it's negative.
It's either negative or it's just like, I don't have that going on with me, so I don't want to hear about it.
Right.
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
totally.
Like, I don't know if we have compassion, really. We don't break down the stories enough to go, here's what they're facing. Imagine that. Put yourself in this in these parents' shoes for a hot second.
Yep.
But it's like, I think too, some of the older generation is like, oh my gosh, you're not depressed.
Right.
You're fine.
Right.
You're fine.
You know what's interesting though, like just in my research as to just with, because I always go back and look at, you know, what responds best with blogs and my website and that stuff. Older, like 65 plus, 55 to 65 plus is actually more in tuned and grasping that information. It's like they almost see it with their kids and their grandchildren.
Oh, okay.
Does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely.
Like it's almost like, oh my gosh, like this is so out of control and we're in such crisis and they need help, and here, can I help them? You know what I mean? Like I've been surprised at that. I thought it was going to be like a younger demo, like, you know, 30-ish to 40, and it's really not. It's an older demo. It's really interesting.
Well, I think we definitely need to start talking about it.
Yeah.
And even if, you know, within your immediate family, if you're not dealing with this, there's someone who is.
For sure.
And they need to know, here are the signs. If this is happening with your child right now, there may be something going on regarding mental health.
For sure. Well, and the other theme that we heard over and over again the other night was really like this whole thing with social media and how it really makes them more anxious and depressed and feel lonelier, right? We have social media, which is supposed to connect us, and all it's doing is the exact opposite. It's like kind of pulling people apart. They're not connecting.
Well,
it's superficial.
I feel that as a almost 40-year-old woman.
Exactly.
Social media makes me super anxious.
Right.
You see other people out there in your profession that are getting a job that's really great.
Right.
I get anxious, like, should I be looking for a job?
Right.
Or I see someone else who just started a podcast and it's getting really popular. And then I get anxious, like, what do I need to be doing that's better? So I feel that as a grown-ass woman.
Me too. I mean, and you know, anything like not being, you know, invited to certain situations or activities. I just think to myself, when I'm feeling bad because they don't invite me, I can't imagine how these kids are feeling.
Right.
Their brains are still developing.
For sure. I mean, they're insecure.
FOMO.
Fear of missing out.
And they said that, FOMO.
Huge.
That was like one of the things, the whole FOMO thing and loneliness.
You see pictures of some of your friends and they're all together drinking wine and you're like, why wasn't I invited?
Yeah,
thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Rude. So I can't imagine being 15, 14, you know, 16, 17. It's almost like social media. You shouldn't be allowed to go on there until you're like 20, 21. But even then.
No, it's struggle. And you think too that kids nowadays as well. I mean, we're as adults, one of the things that we talk about too is we're trying to fix kid problem, right, with kind of the suicide and mental health and or we're not trying to, or we don't know how to deal with it, and it's actually worse than it's ever been because of screen time, you know. And now we've got babies who are coming in literally into screen time and their brains are developing differently because of it, right? Like it's just like, but it's happening so fast. I know it's happening so fast. How do you catch up with it, you know?
On the Edge, how can people find this book?
It is at my website, thelemonadeproject.com, or they can find it on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's Audible and Kindle as well.
Who did the Audible book?
They have like Audible has like this whole
okay.
thing of God, I should have thought of you.
I was going to say, I'm really offended that you didn't think of me.
I know. You know what? I feel bad because I would have. I should have.
No, I'm just kidding. Book number 2.
Okay.
I'll do the audiobooks for number 2.
Yes.
And lemonade, where does that come from? Like, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade?
Yep. I mean, yeah, like, you know, it started out as bipolar lemonade because we thought she had bipolar. And yeah, if you've got lemons, you know, you've got to make lemonade. So that it's just has kind of stuck.
This is really, really telling of me, but I keep journals. Like, I've always kept a journal. And I have one from, I think, when I was 20, 21. And I said in there, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. But I still have the damn lemons. Like at 20 years old, that's what I wrote.
I love that.
So yeah,
awesome.
and then there's, you know, those goofy little things where it's like if life throws you lemons, make a martini or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's what I'll do.
But that's kind of where that comes from.
Definitely.
Lemonade Project.
Yep.
And that's thelemonadeproject.com?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thelemonadeproject.com.
Thelemonadeproject.com. Okay.
Yep.
Well, this would be a nice little holiday gift or birthday gift for someone.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And I think just before we wrap up and get to the final 3, you know, do you have one little nugget of wisdom or advice for anyone who's listening right now who either is going through something like this or knows someone who's going through this?
I think one of the biggest things that with behavioral kind of health, mental health, is recognizing that kids don't want to behave badly, right? Like, oh my God, that kid is so horrible, whatever. Well, there's a reason. Like, they're lacking skills to make the right decisions, and everybody does the best that they can with what they have. Yeah. So recognize that if they're behaving badly, if kids are, there's a reason. They're yelling out, you know, for something else. There's other underlying issues that are going on that you need to get at. And I think it's really easy to sort of put kids or people kind of over to the side. Oh, that's, you know, them and not me kind of situation. Same type of thing. I don't want to think about it. They're bad, you know, without having kind of the empathy.
Yeah. Step in, maybe do something. And again,
kindness matters.
It really does. And I will say that again, you never know what internal battles people are fighting.
Yes.
And that's why it is so important to be kind to everyone. Even if they're a jerk to you and they don't smile at you.
There's a reason.
There's a reason for it.
I know, and it's hard to remember that, but it's so true.
And I smile at everybody.
Yeah.
You probably do too.
I do too.
People think I'm nuts. I don't care.
Yes.
I smile at everybody. All right, Andrea, final 3. Best advice you've ever been given?
Well, I think the best advice I've ever been given is speak your truth even if your voice shakes. And I say it a lot to other people and, you know, to kids and stuff, because it's so hard to be true to your values and really what you're thinking and feeling, because of what, you know, our age we live in.
Who gave you that advice?
I just like...
You just found it?
Yeah, like it was like a quote. I don't even know.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
My husband often said you know, even it goes from like being in a restaurant to your relationships. It's ask for what you want. Ask for what you want in life. Speak your truth.
Right.
Even if it's uncomfortable. Like
totally.
Like you'll be happier on the end.
Exactly.
On the inside of it.
Exactly.
If you ever left this place, Southern Oregon, what would bring you back here? What would you miss the most?
Definitely family. Yeah, because my parents and Jeff's parents are in town, and I just have a good friend support group as well. So for sure.
And Mayor Berryman is still
here, alive and kicking.
She really is. Can you guys even go out together? Because she's just, everybody knows her for the most part if you've lived here during
I'm so used to it. It doesn't bother me at all anymore. It's like you just have to plan an extra half hour.
Okay, final meal, final drink.
Probably a, what do you call them? Lemon drop. Right?
Lemon drop martini.
Lemon drop martini.
When life hands you lemons, make a lemon drop martini.
Yeah, see? You can make a lemon drop martini. And then probably a big piece of chocolate cake. I love desserts. Like, I'm not really a food person, like a big foodie.
Okay.
But I love baking and I love desserts.
Chocolate cake.
Big fat piece, like, and really moist. Lots of icing.
Now, is the cake chocolate or is it like yellow cake?
No, everything's chocolate.
Okay.
Straight across.
I don't think anyone has ever.
What?
No one's ever brought up something sweet.
What?
Yeah.
Come on. I know. See, I'm weird though. Like
It's okay.
yeah, my food issues.
We're all weird. We're all weird. Let's put it out there.
Exactly.
And one more time, definitely a big hooray for Chloe.
Yeah.
And I'm
I'll
just
let her know.
I don't know her, but gosh, I'm so proud of her.
Yeah.
She's just
She's
doing
awesome. She is. She's awesome. Well, she came to one of my little speaking engagements a few weeks ago. She
Good
was
for her.
awesome.
Good for
She,
her.
and she had fun. She loved it. So
Well, you tell her to hair flip and
okay.
keep going. If you are listening to this podcast and you like it, please subscribe, rate, and review. You can find us on Apple's podcast app, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud. You can also watch the video portion of this podcast at ktvl.com. Just click on features and then off script one more time. Andrea Berryman Childreth.
Yay,
Thank you. Thanks for all your contributions too.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
bringing
this
this
is great.
putting some light on this.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.